everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time I'm reviewing another 12th Doctor story. Knock knock. So with most of the new series stories that I review, I don't go over the plot line from a television companion because there isn't one for the new series yet. However, this one is interesting for the fact that I've already done a first impressions video of this on my Stantoba YouTube channel back in 2017. That first impression series, of course, is now fully on the Deanstructor channel, and the last one was back last month for Revolution of the Daleks. If you haven't seen that, check it out. But also check out the link up there for my first impressions of Knock Knock. Now, I've just seen it again for this review, so yeah, let's get on to it. So plot line. We have here that Bill is trying to find a place to share with flatmates because she's now obviously a proper student in the university, and they find a few places. And there's a montage at the beginning of the episode of them trying to find somewhere to live, and it's all fairly small, and the estate agent's taking the absolute pee out of them in regards to where they go for things, and they're trying to find something cheap, and of course you can't find anything cheap. The usual things you get with modern criticism of the housing market, which I'm dipping my toe into this year, hopefully. But yeah, they go about, they give up at the estate agents, and then David Suchet's character, the landlord, turns up and says, "Are you looking for somewhere to live?" And yeah, they said, "Yeah, we are." And I've got, and he shows them around the house, this big house, and says, "I've got a contract here. If you put your names to it, then you can have the lease," and off you go. And yeah, it was an interesting start to the episode. We then have the situation where the Doctor, this is actually quite clever, the Doctor materialises the TARDIS around all Bill's stuff from her room, and then transports it to outside where the house is. And that's a neat little trick there. The TARDIS dematerialising around Bill's stuff. It's a nice moving van, put it that way. And the Doctor helps to get everything in. And the first bit that got me was the students all said, "Oh, hi, Doctor." And I'm going, how do they know his name? Because it's been a few weeks, and a few years, and I realised, no, hang on a minute, they would know him because he was doing lectures, all these big lecture hall. They probably recognise him and think he's rather a cool guy. And then Bill says he's the granddad. And the Doctor takes a bit of offence to that a little bit, which is actually quite a funny little thing. And then we get into the story itself with all the creepiness of the house and the fact that the walls are basically absorbing people. We find out it's dryads, as the Doctor names them, so little beetle creatures. And we find that the landlord has been, every 20 years, getting a new set of 6 students in. And then the walls will then absorb their life forces to help keep alive Edith up in the tower. Now we seem to believe that Edith is his daughter, but actually it turns out she's actually his mother. And it was a nice bittersweet way they twisted it round and made it work for the story, and I think that was rather quite cute, the twist they had with that, and I think it was quite nice the way they did that. Other elements of it, the music skipping bit where Pavel gets absorbed into the wall. The fact that Pavel's sticking out there because the vibrations from the record he's playing and the record skipping is stopping him being fully absorbed. So it helps explain a bit more what's happening maybe of the story, which was interesting. It's only when the landlord stopped the record that it finally synced in that he's part of it, because he seemed a bit aloof and weird before, but you didn't know how quite he was part of it, and then that happens, and it's kind of like, ooh, that's interesting. Using a tuning fork for the sound waves to get the beetles that are in the dryads, as they are, from the walls to go in and suck people up, basically, and suck up their life force. It's quite a self-contained story overall. The plot lines, I said it was light on the first impressions. It's actually a little bit more nuanced than that, I think. There is a bit more to it than that. There's a couple of subtexts you don't see in maybe the first time round in regards to some of the bits and pieces. It's very laid out. You will follow along what's happening in development as the plot goes along, but with the Doctor's suspicion something from the beginning, you know that something's not quite right overall. So it's a little bit more nuanced than some of the bits they talk about and they discuss in this. But it's not. It's still fairly light, but it's not as lightweight as I maybe thought it was 3-4 years ago when I did that review. Anyway, into the cast. We've got, of course, Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. As I said in that review, the first impressions, Capaldi has found his footing. We've got that kind of eccentric Doctor. We know that he won't be trifled with, but he's also a bit more playful. The social awkwardness that the Doctor seems to have more now in the Doctors that we have more modernly in the modern era is coming out a bit more when he's kind of overstaying his welcome once he's helped Bill in with his things. But the fact he's there and the fact he's trying to figure things out and look at things is interesting. You get the kind of effect that Bill's going, out of the way, this is my life, leave me alone. But Capaldi certainly isn't the grumpy Capaldi that I reviewed in, or the very suspicious Capaldi that I reviewed in Listen last year. This character is the lovable 12th Doctor, the 12th Doctor that I enjoy watching and like the character for. But it's a likable Doctor at this point. It's not a weird or alien Doctor or a bit offhand. He's more rounded. There's not really a spikiness here. It's more like an inquisitive mad professor coming through a little bit. But I taking it away and not watching this episode for a couple of years, you do appreciate how good Capaldi is in the role and how committed he is to getting the character just right. And this episode's a good example of that. I personally prefer Pearl Mackie, the chemistry she has with Peter Capaldi, than I do with Jenna Coleman and Peter Capaldi. The chemistry's there as well, and don't get me wrong, Jenna Coleman's a brilliant actress, but the chemistry and the way they work, the way that Bill and the Doctor work with each other is a lot better dynamic. I think that's the better dynamic of Doctor companion for his era. Pearl Mackie doesn't put a foot wrong. She just plays it effortlessly. I don't think she really puts a step wrong in this one. I love the scene that she has with Paul, where where Paul's trying to chat her up, and she basically nonchalantly says, "Nah, I'm not interested in boys. I'm more interested in girls." I thought that was the way she played that. This is the thing. There was a bit of controversy in Series 10 about this lesbian companion, and Bill mentions it. There is references to it throughout the series, but it's not in your face. And this is definitely another example of not in your face. It's part of the conversation, it's part of who she is, but she never forces it out to make a statement. It just naturally comes 9 times out of 10, and this is one of these examples. You've got other guest cast as well. Matt Lucas makes an appearance near the end, guarding the vault as Nardole. At this point, he's more like a bit part, but he's very much a teacher scolding a pupil here when it comes to the vault situation at this point, and it's an interesting dynamic. He flourishes more later in the series. He's kind of underused at this point. The best guest star is David Suchet as the landlord. Now, Suchet, of course, is well known for playing Poirot. It's interesting seeing him with so much hair, because I'm used to seeing the bald Poirot, but he plays it with enough creepiness, but still friendliness to it, and there's enough nuance in there that he's a very believable character. You can tell the dark turns when they ask about can we go in the tower, when all the students are in there initially before they sign the contracts. His face trips like that. No, you can't go in the tower. You're not going to go in the tower. You're not allowed. And then his face trips again very quickly back into a very smiley and helpful person. But as he goes around the house with a tuning fork and starts tapping the walls and stopping the sound, you know there's something not quite right with him. The bit that really gets me with David Suchet is the bit at the end when it's revealed that actually Eliza's son, he's Eliza's son. He called John, apparently, although I can't recall hearing that this time round, but I think that's correct. John, he was there, and this turn of the sixpence of him being so boyish, and the whole motive of this guy was he's trying to keep his mum alive. That's really sweet, and David Suchet plays it brilliantly. Speaking of Eliza, you've got Maria Gale. I mean, she doesn't do much. She's sitting in the bed a bit ill in the flashback, and the makeup makes it very limited movement she could do for the character now, the Eliza now. That's the wooden creature that we see. But overall, yeah, it's solid enough. She doesn't do much. Can't move much really. It's fine. It's fine. It's not really much to go on there. You've then got Shireen Mandeep Dillon. She is really the main one of the other students that we talk about and look at a bit. She seems to be a bit more friendly with Bill. And she's the last one to be swallowed up. I love the fact that they play a little bit of the relationship thing, that she kind of fancies Paul. I like that little touch there. The other characters, you've got Harry. He actually annoyed me a little bit with the Doctor at times. Nothing wrong with Colin Ryan's part. But I think Harry just is a little bit grating at times in this one. He's kind of like, no, I want to get out of here. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like the other thing. It's kind of, oh, for goodness sake, go away. You've then got Ben Presley as Paul. Bit over the top, trying to show off a little bit. Ben Presley plays it well enough. It's the character, really. Alice Hukin. I wasn't quite enamoured with Felicity, to be fair. Played by Alice Hukin. I think she's a little bit stereotypical. That's the thing when you've got so many cast members. There's only so much you can put in 45 minutes, and these are kind of like window dressing, really. And then Bart Salvek, who plays Pavel, you don't really see or hear much of. He gets his oar to the wall. That's it. So apart from that, there's not really much for those cast. I mean, I said at the time on the first impressions, it's like Scooby-Doo gang with this mystery. Not really. I don't know where I got that observation from, but I don't think that's the case now. Definitely not. I mean, Mike Bartlett, who wrote the story, did a good job. It's a nice little creepy horror, kind of haunted house type story. It plays on the relationship of the Doctor and Bill a bit more, and how it all works. Yeah, overall, it's kind of still in the developing stage, but there's a relationship and a friendship between them there, and you can see that, and the writing works well for the story and the setting, and it's directed pretty good by Bill Anderson. Pretty standard, although I noticed there's a couple of shots where there's quick zooms in. There's kind of like jump cuts as such in there. The sequence when Harry and the Doctor were talking in the kitchen, and you've got Harry talking about the situation about not being able to get out and everything else, and don't start playing with the bug in that, leave it alone, and that when the bug starts coming out the wall. And you got the bit where they're near the shutters and the Doctor's talking, and it's obviously a jump cut, but it's a jump cut of the same thing. They've just expanded the frame a little bit, I think, and it kind of direct these little more modern kind of cuts are in there a little bit more. They're not as smooth as they could be in some cases, and it helps with the staccato nature of some of the horror there. It's more what you hear more than actually what you see, and that's always the best Doctor Who, when you get suggestive. When Paul gets stuck into the wall, all you hear is noise from his room. You don't hear him being taken in. The Pavel effect that you have on the wall works well. And the way it's shot and framed works quite well. Overall, it's decent direction. And music-wise, I know I'm critical of Murray Gold with his bombasticness at this time, but actually it's fairly understated. And only really crescendos up. It's more crescendos up here when the Beatles and the Dryads are absorbing people and eating them effectively. It's actually understated for Murray Gold, and it surprised me actually, because normally I'm picking it out going, oh no, here we go, bombast again, but he's actually pretty good. And the thing of music in this era is, if it's not overstated, it actually doesn't affect anything, and I like that. I like that a lot. Overall, I think this is a story I would certainly go back to and watch. I mean, Series 10 is one of the better series of the Moffat era, in my opinion. It certainly was enjoyable. Would I say it is as good as some of the stories I've reviewed so far? It's up there. I'm kind of at two minds whether to put it as a 4 or a 3.5 TARDISes out of 5. I know there's kind of a trope at the moment. I'm putting a lot of stories at 3.5 or 3. This one is enjoyable. It's not the best, so on that basis, it's just going to be 3.5 TARDISes out of 5. Alright, let's see how that stacks up against the rest of the Doctor Who stories so far. That 3.5 TARDISes out of 5 list is getting really long. Off the back of that, Knock Knock sits in alongside the Aztecs, Vengeance and Varos, Amy's Choice, the Christmas Invasion, the Ice Warriors, Listen of course, State of Decay and the Runaway Bride. At the bottom is Time Lash with 2.5 TARDISes out of 5. It means though that at the top, as always, at 4.5 TARDISes out of 5 is the Happiness Patrol, Inferno, the Day of the Doctor, the Caves of Androzani, the Tomb of the Cybermen and Dalek. That's it for now. Thanks guys for watching as always. Speaking of the Happiness Patrol, check out the next time for that on Wednesday at 6 PM GMT. Hope you can join me for that. But if you like this video, don't forget to like it and share it with the hashtag teamstructor. Give your suggestions for what Doctor Who stories you want me to review in the future. The link to the Patreon is down below, and have a look at that. You get a chance to vote for stories you want me to review going forward. If you like this channel as a whole, don't forget to check out the playlist for all the other Doctor Who reviews, and hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell so you know when a new video comes out. General, new video every Sunday at 4 PM GMT, but there is a next time for the Happiness Patrol, as I mentioned already, on Wednesday at 6 PM GMT. Next week is a Kidstructor, and this one is going to be an interesting Kidstructor, and it's going to be quite fun as well. Hopefully you can join me for that. It's part of the stuff I recorded back in July with Sophia, Jamie and Fraser. Until then, thanks guys for watching. See you Wednesday for the Happiness Patrol next time trailer maybe. If not, I'll catch you next time here on Deanstructor Reviews Doctor Who. Until next time, thanks guys, and see you later.